Hey everybody, Pastor Lance here, Glen Ellen Community Church. Hey, I want to encourage you to check out our website, gechurch.com. And if you like this video, if it's an encouragement to you, then click the subscribe button and the bell right beside it, and you'll get notified when we put up new videos. But today I want to talk to us about a perspective and maybe a perspective change for some of us. And so I'll start with, how light and darkness really only exists or even gets revealed when there's a removal of light. So it takes the absence of light for darkness to even exist, and it's the same with life and death really doesn't even show itself until light or life has been removed. And so with light and life, once they're removed, then darkness or death are revealed. But in the presence of these things don't even exist. And I want to, with that perspective, I want to look at peace. The disciples, when they got in the boat with Jesus and they were going to cross the sea to the other side, and the storm came up on them, and the boat was taking on water, and they were sinking, and they thought they were going to die and drown, and they woke Jesus up, and Jesus rebukes the wind and the waves, and the storm just completely ceases, and the disciples are able to regain their peace. And their peace that was dependent on the presence of the storm or it being completely removed out of the way. And I think a lot of times we get into the habit of thinking of our peace that way, is that we have to have the removal of a storm in our life for us to gain peace. And I mean, look at this whole situation that we're facing with the coronavirus. There are so many storms in people's lives right now. People are not working, businesses are shut down, and so there's no paychecks coming in. People are wondering how they're going to pay their bills, or small businesses are, closing their doors, and they don't even know if they're going to be able to reopen. They don't know how they're going to cope with this situation. There's a lot of storms going on in people's lives right now. But Jesus, in the middle of that storm, he was asleep. Remember, the disciples had to wake him up to get his attention. He was asleep, and if you're sleeping in a boat in the storm, then you have peace. And his peace wasn't dependent on whether or not there was a storm that existed, but his peace was like resident. It was there all the time. I want to read a couple verses out of the Bible. The first one is in Isaiah. It's chapter 9, verse 6. And it says, "For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace." And that's a really popular verse around Christmas time, but look at it in this season. He will be called the Prince of Peace. In Philippians chapter 4, it says to be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds through Christ Jesus. And how does it do it through Christ Jesus? Well, it's because he's the Prince of Peace. And since his peace wasn't dependent on whether the storm had been removed before his peace could come in, that's the way it was with the disciples. I'm thinking that if we keep our eyes on Christ and we keep our mind on Christ, that we will have a peace that isn't dependent on the presence of the storm, but the circumstance that we're facing. I mean, look at it. The disciples still had to cross the sea. There was still a circumstance in their life. They had to cross over and get over to the other side. We're going to have to cross through this coronavirus season in everything that's going on and all the ways that it's impacting everybody. We're still going to have to cross that and get through that. We can't pretend like it doesn't exist. But maybe our peace in there can actually determine whether or not this circumstance gives birth to a storm. Maybe if our peace was more resident, then the storm would never exist, even though we walk through a circumstance. And so here's my challenge to you is concerning peace, think of it like this. Peace is not the absence of a storm, but it's actually the presence of a person. And that person is Jesus. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Make your requests known to Jesus. Keep your mind on Jesus. Don't allow the circumstance to give birth to a storm. Hey, hope you have a good day.